Hello everybody! The next plane off the pile is a Stanley Number 24. I just finished the restoration of this old 24 and she came out looking really good. She's a late sweetheart model from the late 20s, early 30s. And this old beauty prompted me to do a discussion about transitional planes. Stanley made transitional planes from 1867 to 1943. This old number 4 is a smoothing plane. It's one of many transitional planes that Stanley made. That number 24 is the same size as a number 4. Stanley started making the number 4 in 1867. So why a transitional plane and a regular plane like this? When Stanley started making these planes in 1867, it was a radical jump from what the popular plane was of the day. There are a few other rare companies that made iron planes about the same time and even earlier, but the most common plane back then is what you see right here. This is also a smoothing plane, the same size as a number 4. The only difference with this one is the iron is 2 1/4 inches wide, and the number 4 and the 24 have a 2-inch wide iron. This is the type of plane that my great-great-grandfather would have been using. Instead of a lever cap, it uses a wedge. The wedge holds the iron in place. These old planes typically use irons that were far thicker than what the modern irons are. They were thicker towards the cutting edge and they thinned out as you came up towards the back end of the iron. And there's a look at the wedge that holds it in place. There were literally thousands of makers that made these old wooden planes in the United States. So just imagine in 1867 when Stanley starts to make these and flood the market with them when everybody's used to using these planes over here. It was probably like when beer companies went from bottles to cans. The transitional planes appealed to the old timers that were used to using wood. They were afraid that these metal planes would mar the wood surface and wouldn't be as good as the wooden ones. The modern transitional plane gave them the lever cap instead of a wedge. You got a depth adjustment knob, and a few years later you had the lateral adjustment, which made using a plane a lot easier. If you've ever used one of these old wooden planes, they're definitely usable, but nowhere near as easy to use as the modern Stanley plane. These two transitionals are the same size as a Stanley Number 4 smooth plane. The smallest transitional that Stanley made was the Stanley Number 21. This is one here. And it shows you all the reasons why an iron plane is better than a wood-based plane. Here's a good close-up look at what happens to them when they're not properly cared for. When they get like this, there's no coming back. You can restore a rusted iron plane, cast iron plane, but you can't even come close to repairing what you see right here. It's not at all uncommon to find the old transitionals, even when they look fairly good, to be dried out and split all the way from the front where they got the Stanley markings back to the throat, and a lot of times beyond the throat and all the way to the rear of the plane. Stanley made a total of 29 transitional planes. The number 21 was the smallest of the transitionals. It's a smooth plane. There were 12 smooth planes in all. The number 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 35, 36, 37 Jenny, a 122 Liberty Bell, the G22, the G35, and the G36. Wow! Next up in size were the jack planes. They made 6 of those. The number 26 that you see right here, a 27, 27 and a half, a 127 Liberty Bell, the G26 and the G27 and a half. Then you graduate into the 4 planes. This one happens to be a G29, but it's not complete. I'm missing a few parts. But in the 4 planes there were 4 of them. The 28, the 29, the G29, the number 129 and the G28. Again, that's a lot of planes. This one right here is 20 inches long. I didn't have a joiner anywhere near the top of the pile in the transitionals, but of the joiner planes, Stanley made 7 in transitional planes. The number 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, the G30 and the G31. The 34 is a monster. That plane is 30 inches long, a full 10 inches longer than that one you see sitting right there that's 20 inches. So here's my question to you. How come nobody likes the transitional planes? I mean, I can see why you wouldn't like this one right here. But then when you see something like my 24 that I just finished, I mean, that's a beautiful plane. They just don't seem to be all that popular with the users. On one of my favorite websites, which is Patrick's Blood and Gore, what a name, he has a picture of a bonfire made from transitional planes. I don't remember his exact comment, but it's something to do with the fact that that's the best thing to do with them. Why all the hate? And I almost forgot to show you, I do have a gauge transitional plane that was near the top of the pile. This is a pre-Stanley gauge before they started making the G22, 23 and those planes. I'm not sure what number was on this one. I haven't looked it up yet. On these planes they went one step further to make sure the wood didn't chip out near the throat. So you see how the metal insert is there to prevent that from happening. So that's a pretty neat feature. That's gone a step further on the transition from wood to all metal. Stanley bought out gauge like they did a lot of other companies and continued to make the gauge planes for a few years and then discontinued them. The tote on this one is a replacement. The originals were black, just like the front knob, and they had a metal top with two screws that held them down, and usually the horn is broke off because the screw goes into the wood where the horn is thin and they just break. So that's it on my discussion about transitional planes. A lot of them out there, not very well liked, don't know why. So if you've ever used one or have any thoughts, leave some comments and share them with everybody so we can talk about it. I mean, how could you not like a plane that looks like this one, but then maybe it doesn't work that well? So let's give it a test drive. So the 1 5/8 inch poplar is in the vise. We're going to see what this old plane will do. Yeah, I hate it already. I mean, who would want a plane that makes nice, long, wispy shavings and wood cutting through like butter? I mean, I can see where all the haters come from. I'm really starting to hate this plane myself. Just kidding, look at that. Very consistent, very smooth, and very nice. This plane passes the test. This old plane turned out 1.5 1/1000ths of an inch shavings, just as good as any other iron plane I've ever used. I mean, there's a look at how thin they are. I don't know why I'd want to be a hater of that. I do understand that the wood has a lot of problems. I mean, it's hard, it's durable, properly cared for, it's going to last a lifetime. Obviously, this plane right here is about 90 years old right now. On close inspection of the bottom of the plane, I can see some very, very light scrape marks in the wax, which, I mean, that's not a problem. Use it, put some more wax on it, and I think it'd be a great plane. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think. I'll tell you what I think. I think this old 24 Sweetheart's about as beautiful as they get. I'm willing to up the ante. My December plane giveaway is for a number 5. I was going to do a number 6 in March. So by your comments, let's take a vote. Number 6, or do we give this one away right here? It's all up to you. Let me know. That's it for now. Time for supper. Bye.